Roses marching through London sent chills up her spine. Rose, like most Londoners, forced herself to carry on despite the horrid destruction and loss of life. But the source of Rose's resilience wasn't entirely self-motivated. It was fueled, Rose believed, by the death of her brother, Charlie. Charlie, Rose's only sibling, had been killed in August when his RAF Spitfire was shot down over the Channel. His body was never recovered, and she prayed that he died fast and didn't suffer. Rose and her parents, Emilienne and Herbert, were heartbroken. Family photographs were forbidden to be displayed on desks, so Rose kept a childhood picture of Charlie, a curly-haired boy with dimpled cheeks and an infectious smile, tucked inside the top drawer of her desk. The photo was taken at their grandparents' home in France, where Rose and Charlie spent summer holidays. When Rose was doleful or exhausted, which occurred far more often than she liked to admit, she opened her drawer to see Charlie. "I miss you terribly," she would often say to herself. After closing her drawer, she would return to typing, more determined than ever to do her duty to help Britain survive. As Rose was placing a fresh sheet of stationery into her typewriter, the approaching sound of a woman's shoes clicked in the hallway. "Gwyneth has contracted tonsillitis," a middle-aged woman announced, entering the room. "We need a typist to work a 24-hour shift." Rose looked up. The secretarial supervisor, Gladys Gossick, wearing an olive wool skirt and matching jacket, stood near the doorway. The women paused, resting their hands beside their typewriters. Some of the switchboard operators, their ears covered by headsets, were unaware of Gossick's presence and continued to plug their cords into circuitry. "Lucy?" Gossick locked her eyes on the typist. Lucy nodded and then lowered her head. The typists had little, if any, say in the schedules. When overtime was needed, or when someone called out due to illness, they were randomly drafted to work double shifts. Gossick was viewed as a fair supervisor, but she seldom conversed with the staff about personal matters, unlike Rose, who thought one should strive to know a little something about co-workers. And Rose knew from joining the women on breaks at the canteen in the Treasury building that Lucy had plans to spend the evening with her boyfriend, Jonathan, a firefighter who was receiving his first night off in over 2 weeks. As the supervisor turned to leave, Rose interrupted. "Miss Gossick?" Gossick paused, placing her hands on her hips. "Would it be all right if I worked this evening instead of Lucy?" Lucy's eyes widened. "I have some reports I'd like to finish," Rose said, pointing to a stack of papers. "I'm not tired, and I'm thinking that I could accomplish a fair amount of work," she added, hoping her supervisor didn't notice the dark circles under eyes. Gossick nodded and then left. "Thank you, Rose," Lucy said, leaning in. "I promised to make it up to you." "No need," Rose said. "Enjoy your evening with Jonathan." Lucy and Jonathan, a man who risked his life to save Londoners from fires and collapsed buildings, had been dating for over a year. Rose suspected that they would eventually be married. She hoped that someday she'd meet someone that she fancied spending time with, but with the war she'd placed her personal endeavours on hold, and since the death of her brother, she'd preferred to bury herself in her work. At her break, Rose went to a public phone box, located outside of the Treasury building. Typists were not permitted to use the telephones in the cabinet war rooms, which were limited to official government business, so she climbed the stairs, cleared security, and then walked to the end of the street. Stepping inside a telephone box, she picked up the receiver, inserted a coin, and rang her parents. "Teasdale grocery," her father said rather abruptly. "Hello, Dad." "Rose," he said, his voice turning bright. "Everything all right?" "I'm going to work an extra shift," she said. "I'll be home in the morning." "Chin up," he said. "Churchill needs you, and I'm sure you're doing a brilliant job, otherwise he wouldn't require you to work so much." I volunteered. "Churchill has his own personal assistants," Rose said. "I'm merely a staff typist." "You're helping us win this bloody war." Rose's chest swelled with confidence. "You always have a way of making me feel rather plucky." "Those oranges are for children," Herbert blurted. Rose pulled the receiver away from her ear. She envisioned the sign that her mother had made to place beside a small basket of oranges, a rare shipment that came from America. The consumption of oranges was restricted to children only. Her parents loathed